Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2010, it's a Toyota Avalon, and we're just going to be doing some basic maintenance on it. We're going to change the oil and the filter. This is a canister style filter, so the canister is a little bit messy, but we will wear our gloves and we should be able to get through this without any kind of a problem. So, all right, let me show you up. Let me bring you up there. I'm going to show you where the oil drain plug is, and then where the oil filter would be located. So come on up, I'll show you what tools you need, and we're going to get started. Wear your gloves because this is going to be messy. Okay, now looking underneath the car, this is your exhaust system here, and this is your oil drain plug right here. What we're going to do is we're going to put a bucket underneath the bottom of this, and we're going to break this nut loose, and we're going to take it out, and we're going to drain it into a container. That's the easy part. The part that's going to be a little bit more difficult is going to be taking out this filter right inside here. We need to take this whole housing right here down to get the oil filter out. Now you can drain the fluid out through here by taking this out with a 3/8 ratchet. I don't usually do it like that because you're going to make a mess regardless of what you do, whether you take it out here or you take it out up on top here. I just wear gloves and then take it out and make a mess one time. So, all right, we're going to get that tool, we're going to put it on here, and we're going to take this out, and we're going to let this drain out, and we'll replace that filter inside there as well. Let me show you what kind of tools you're going to need now. This is an example of what kind of tools you're going to be using. You're going to be using a ratchet with a 14mm socket. Now, you can use a wrench. Obviously, you can use a wrench like this too. We're never going to use this end of the wrench. This end of the wrench is going to cause you nothing but headaches. If you strip that plug out on the oil drain pan, you're going to have a problem taking it out, and that'll be a whole different problem for you. So if you do use a wrench, you're using just the box end of the wrench. In this case, I use a 1/2-inch ratchet because the special tool that's needed to take that filter housing off, it's a fairly large nut on there. I think it's like a 15/16. Yes, it is. So I use a 1/2-inch drive just so I have a little bit more leverage to break it loose. You could use 3/8, but I use 1/2-inch. But you need a 15/16 socket for the new tool to take it off. You're going to need a scribe like this to remove the old gasket. And this is what the filter element looks like. All right, we are also going to use our new O-rings that come with it too. And this piece here comes with the filter to actually drain out the oil that's inside the filter. But like I said, I'm not going to do it that way, and you don't need to either. You're going to make a mess regardless whether you use this or if you take this and take the cap off. So I just make a mess one time, and that's how I do it. So, all right, enough talking. Let me get set up over here, and we're going to get started. Okay, now remember what I told you. You're going to have a suitable bucket to drain your oil into, which we do have here. And also, I'm going to move it for a second. Remember I told you about the wrench? You're never going to use the open end side of the wrench on here, because if you do and you push on this, it may come loose, but you're going to slowly start to round off these pieces right here, and you never want to do that. You can put a regular normal wrench, the box end on there, and break it loose like that. But what I always do, always use a socket. You'll never have to worry about stripping it out. We just crack it loose, put this underneath the bottom like that. Okay, so once you break it loose, then you can just come up here and make sure you're wearing your gloves, of course. And you just take this out. And we're just going to let it drain into the container just like that. And now if the O-ring is in poor condition, or gasket, whatever is in poor condition, you want to change it at this point. But if not, you can reuse the old one. All right, so we're going to let this drain out until it's totally empty. Once this is empty, we'll come back and then we'll take out that oil filter and change that. Okay, once it finishes draining, we just screw our drain plug back in by hand. And then we can tighten up the drain plug. You don't want to over tighten it and strip out the oil pan. Right, we'll wipe off the excess oil. And now we're going to move our bucket over, and we're going to pull that filter out right there. Okay. Let's get you up here so you can see what I'm doing up here. Now you know that the filter is in a little bit of a tough spot up in there. A little bit difficult to see. It's also difficult to light it, but I actually, I love these lights by OTC. They work absolutely perfect. It's called an OTC Spectrum. And what I like is that you can stick it up to the frame of the car wherever you need to. It sticks perfectly, so it actually can illuminate the area where you need. And it just lights it up really well. All right, so all right, enough of that. We're going to take this this filter out right here, and remember what I said about that special tool, right? This is the tool that actually fits right on there, just like that. It fits nice and tightly. There's lots of other tools they make, but I like this. It works really well. You don't have to worry about stripping it out. The worst thing you can possibly do is strip it out, and then you're going to be screwed. Now it's pretty tight, as you can see. So what I normally do in that case, either you got two choices. You can get in there and muscle through it, but when you get to be my age, there is no such thing as muscling through anything anymore. You snap it loose. I got what they call a breaker bar, or a lot of guys call it a cheetah bar. But it works really well to break it loose. All right, now we're going to get back in here with this. We're going to loosen it up the rest of the way, and now you're going to get to a point where it's going to start leaking all over the place. So you want to make sure that you have your bucket in place like this, and then we'll just take this. We'll take this. Well, we'll get that cap off later on, but we'll just rotate this out until it starts leaking, and then we'll just let it drain for a bit. It's not really a big deal if you're wearing gloves. It leaks a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because you just throw the gloves away. We'll just take this out. Make sure you have a bucket below, of course. And we just pull it out, and that's what it looks like, the filter itself. All right, so we are going to take this filter here. You just grab it and you pull it out. Now we just dropped it in a bucket. Now I'm going to dry this off, and we're going to take it over to the cart over here, and I'm going to show you how to change the O-ring right here. And of course we're going to take our tool back off. So let me grab a rag, we'll clean this off, and then we'll go over to the bench. Okay, so now we're here at the bench, and this light does come in handy like that. All right, we just make sure we take our cap back off, because we don't want to lose our cap. Clean this off a little bit. And then we're going to take off that O-ring right there. You just hook it with a scribe or a screwdriver or whatever, and you just take it right off, like that. We're going to grab our new O-ring. Always make sure that you use your new O-ring. Never reuse the old one. We just put it into that groove like that. You grab it with the hook or a screwdriver, whatever you have, and you just put it around just like that. And the filter just goes over the top. You push it, and that's it. It's all set. Now, we're going to go back in the car, but we are going to lubricate this with a little bit of clean oil before we put this back in. So let me lubricate it. We're going to go back over to the car, and we're going to continue with that job. Now, if you did drain it out through the bottom right here, which as you know I did not do, if you are draining it out through here, you do need to change this O-ring below there also, but I did not open it, so we're not going to have to worry about it. All right, let's get back up underneath there and continue in the car. Okay, then we just screw our filter back in, always by hand, as far as you can turn it by hand. And then we're going to snug it in with the tool that we had, and along we'll get the hook. We're going to put our cap back on, and then we'll tighten it down just till it's snug. Doesn't have to be crazy tight because the gasket is actually sealing it. Again, make sure you take this off. Dry off any kind of oil that may be up inside here so you don't have any drips on the ground. And then we're going to lower it down, and we're going to continue up top. Okay, now after you got the car back down on the ground, this is where your oil goes back into. It goes in the top right here. And you always want to make sure that you use the correct oil. Most of the time it'll tell you right on the cap what weight oil goes in there. As you can see, this calls for a 5W30, so that's exactly what we're going to use. Right? Now, I always recommend using a funnel because you may think you're going to get it in there, but you're going to wind up making a little bit of a mess. So you just put your funnel on the top here, and sometimes this, when you look down the side here, sometimes it doesn't go down real quick, so you want to pour the oil in slowly. Always make sure that you use the correct oil, 5W30, which is what it calls for, and that's what we're going to use. Like I said, pour it in slowly. You don't want it to spill all over the place. Now, you always want to make sure that you use the correct amount of oil. I know from looking this up on my computer, it calls for 6.4 quarts of oil. So we're going to put in 6 and about a half. And then we're going to take our funnel out. Make sure that you put your cap back on the vehicle. And then we're going to start it and let it run for just a minute or two, just to let the oil circulate. Okay, now after you have your oil circulating, you take your dipstick out, you wipe it down, make sure it's nice and clean, and then if you look on the stick, you see these two marks right here? That's the low mark, that's the high mark. It should be very close to this upper mark right here. It should be full. So let's check it and see. As you can see, it's fairly close, but I do have to put just a little bit more in there, so we're going to It's always better to have to add a little bit than to have to try to drain out oil because you put too much in. So always make sure that you know the capacity of your car. Now, when you look it up, it always tells you what the oil level the oil capacity is, but it always says approximately. So I'll cap back on, and make sure you snug it down tight. Clean your stick. I'm going to check it one more time. And as you can see, it's exactly up to the full mark. Alright, so the oil change is finished. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look underneath the car, make sure that everything is bone dry underneath there, and now we're going to go in the car and we're going to reset our oil maintenance light, and the oil change will be done. So let's go in the car and let's do that. Okay, you'll hold this button here down, and you keep the button down while you turn the car to the on position. We're not going to start it, we're just going to turn it to the on position. So I'm going to try to do this one-handed. Ignition on, and just hold the button down at the same time. And you see it count down all those zeros, and it disappears, and that's it. It's reset to 100%. I'll show you one more time. We're going to hold that button on, and then we're going to turn this switch on, the ignition switch, right here at the same time. We're not going to step on the brake pedal because we do not want it to start. So press the button down here, hold it in, and then we press the start button twice till everything lights up, and you see those little lines blink down? They blink down to all zeros, and that's it. You're reset to 100%. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.